Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Alex Huffman, A Division player in the Magic City Pinball League. And today we're going to be taking you through semifinal and finals action of the Alabama State Championship Series, which is the top 16 players in the state. What you're looking at on the screen right now is the first game, which we were not able to get on camera. That was Chris Warren taking $1.2 million on Game of Thrones over Scott Mount, who you see here on the screen. So we're going to pick up the action here with 1-0, and the next game on the list is Demolition Man. This is actually Scott's Demolition Man. And we'll go ahead and say that while this match is going on, we also have a second match in progress against Addison Mount, Scott's son, and Braden Gentry, who is another great player. So this is the top 4 of the players in the state of Alabama currently. So Demolition Man is a game that I have not spent a ton of time with. In fact, I had only played it once the week before the tournament, and then I played it once or twice on the day of the tournament. So essentially what he is trying to do now is warm up. So in the state tournament, the players are allowed 30 seconds of warm-up time on every game. If they choose to use it, they don't always choose to. The state tournament is open to the top 16 players in the state, like I mentioned earlier, and those are determined by your points in leagues and tournaments throughout the year that take place within your state. So Chris, I believe, is the number 1 seed going into the tournament, and Scott is not exactly an underdog. He would be the 3rd seed. So what you're seeing here on your screen, these are going to be the best of the best here in the state of Alabama, and I can assure you that even though we have a small state, we have some really good players who are very dedicated to the game. So Scott's going to be really familiar with this game. It's normally in his house. He brought it for the tournament. Thank you for that, Scott. I know you're watching, I know you're listening. So we appreciate you lugging this and the Shadow and a couple other games down for a couple of weeks to use in this tournament and the Pinball and Pelham tournament we had after this, which we'll be bringing you coverage of in a later video. So you can see he's already started his first Fortress multi-ball. That can be started in as little as 3 shots. And the jackpots on this multi-ball are always in the same order. You want to hit the Act Mag shot, which is the shot at the larger opening at the top of the playfield, and then I believe it's the shot underneath it, kind of that's flashing right now, would be the second shot, and then the right ramp, and you can see he's at a multi-ball. But there's a tutorial on YouTube if you search for Demolition Man that Bo and Karen's does. If you have a game on location, and I highly encourage you to watch that. He goes very in depth and gets really far into the game, and everything that Bowen puts out is really incredible stuff. So he's out of his first multi-ball here. He's got about 430 something million so far, which is a pretty decent start. So my knowledge is limited on this game, but the best as I understand it, you want to build your combos, which lead into multi-balls, and just like in most high-end tournaments, you'll see the claw has been disabled on this machine, which makes it a little bit more difficult to get to multi-ball. Seems to make the game more fair. I haven't played it any other way, so I can't really speak on that, but it is a fun playing game. It's got great shots, great flow, and Scott is doing a great job of draining now as soon as I said something, but he was just getting into the flow. And I will say that in the first rounds, right before this round, Scott and I went at it on this game, and I was able to edge him out 2.4 billion to 2.1 billion, which are pretty incredible scores on this game. So that was fun, but ultimately he knocked me out of the tournament, which is why you don't see me play. So let's see if Chris is going to have anything to say about that 629 million that Scott put up, which is a really great score. It's a really good first ball. If you're flailing around and you don't understand the rules in this game, you're going to have a bad time. It's just one of those types where if it, Game of Thrones, or even most recently Guardians of the Galaxy is a good example where you're just, if you're flailing around, you're not going to score very many points. But Chris has obviously played this game before. This is a tournament game. You see it pretty frequently. And he is in his Fortress multi-ball and drains out 2 really quickly. He's able to get 1 jackpot there. So you can see the left ramp, center ramp is the jackpot now, and he's going to be out of multi-ball. I really like Chris's style of play. He and I share a similar style where he's all about controlling the ball with the flippers. He's just much more refined than I am. He's been playing a lot longer, has a lot more practice. He has games in his house. He's had games for several years, so I'm pretty sure he plays every day. I try to play every day. I do what I can. But it shows. He's the #1 player in the state most of the time. He won it 3 times in a row, so he's your 3-time back-to-back-to-back Alabama state champion. So he's building up his combos here to try to work his way back around to multi-ball. And I believe it will still give you a lock freeze on the right ramp, but the awards are sequential if you don't have the claw enabled. The claw enables you to choose your award, and 99% of the time players who know the game are going to choose lock freeze, which allows you to get back around to multi-ball much more quickly. And, yep, got rejected out of the ACMAG shot there, and doesn't happen that often, but when it does, there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. And these wide body games are a lot more difficult to move around. And in a tournament setting like this, I think it would have been a good idea to at least give a shove so you could test the waters on the tilt. But I guess he did that when he was warming up and knew there wasn't any way he could save that ball. That's what you should do. I see a lot of people in tournament warm-ups trying to legitimately play the games. If you're in a setting like this where you have 40 games that you have to play, go up there, play 1 ball, test the tilt and shake it until you have to tilt, because at that point you know what you can get away with on every game. And you're not sitting there wasting your energy playing 40 games back to back to back, plus you don't have time to do that. So we can see Scott getting in his groove once again. And I think he's going to try to, yeah, he's going to go for the right ramp here, and I think he's got multi-ball start lift shot, not that ramp, but just to the left of that ramp, I believe, is a multi-ball start that he has lit, which is a really difficult shot. That was a nice save right there. And he's out. But he's got a multi-ball lit for ball 3. And in some cases, I would say, maybe not in this case since you're playing Chris Warren, but in a lot of cases, I like to play first, because it gives you the opportunity to put up a good score and make your opponent chase it. And sometimes if you're the last player and the player in front of you puts up a score that you know that you can get, even though it may be reachable, it's more difficult because you tense up and you know that, okay, time to perform. I like to be able to put people in that position. I know that Chris likes to play. He likes to play the second guy. He likes to go last or as late as he can, so he knows where he's at. So everybody has their thing. But he's a flipper skills guy. This game is equipped with triggers, which is kind of a unique feature about this game. The triggers allow you to score more points, I believe, with your combos. They don't help you a whole lot with multi-ball, but they will give you a secret jackpot. There are 2 buttons on top of the triggers, and they have these handles that are on the sort of the side of the machine. And if you hit them, it will give you credit for a jackpot. So if you have a jackpot shot that you're either struggling with, or if you're about to drain a ball, you can hit those triggers and be credited for a jackpot. which is really a neat feature. I like to use the triggers on this game. I think the response on them is really fast. In fact, even faster than using a flipper, because the travel time on the triggers is so short that you're able to react a little bit faster. But it's a personal preference thing. You see both these guys don't use the triggers, but Scott will use them for secret jackpots. So I think Chris also has multi-ball lit right there on that shot he was just going for. Mag Hurry Up is ready. So you're going to see him shoot right up the... he's going for the multi-ball. So he collected $11.7 million for the hurry up, which isn't huge value for that, but I don't think he was initially shooting for it. Good decision not to flip there. It was a really nice dead bounce. That's one thing Chris does really well, is slow the ball to where he can get control. That's the one thing. That's definitely a lesson. That's another great example of a dead bounce there. It's a lesson that everybody can learn from Chris about the way that he plays. So just to the left of that shot on the ramp there, I believe he's got multi-ball lit. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's what that insert's flashing for. So he's trying to figure out a way to get it over there. And that is a really difficult shot. And if you're playing this game, that is one to keep in mind for using your secret jackpots on. You can see Chris is a really great shot and is still struggling to find it. It's just a really awkward position on the flipper that you don't use very often when you're playing games from this era. So this is a multi-ball where all the jackpots are lit, and I believe the purpose of this multi-ball is to make them all once, so that will let your super jackpot, I think, on the right ramp. I would have liked to see him hang on to the ball there. He knew better than to do that. You want to try to keep as many balls under control as you can. Sometimes that's 2 on one flipper, but at least you want to have 1 ball on a flipper. Because if you put 2 balls into play, you're having to make twice as many decisions as you otherwise would have, having 1 ball on the flipper and the other trying to make jackpots. So we'll probably see him do a cradle separation here where he flips 1 ball up, okay, or an over-under, which is a really nice move, pretty cool to see. Nice, he drilled that hard shot right there. Surprised he didn't save it. So now his super is lit. So 1 shot to the right ramp. Got to get him under control. And he gets credit for it. Wow. Trickled up in there. So, and then it restarts. So 30 million a jackpot. I missed how much the super was, but I think it was 100 million or so. That's going to be the end of his ball. But he did an excellent job of catching up with Scott.
That was some bonus right there.
And anytime you can surpass a player on their own game, that feels pretty good. So here's a position where Scott is in, you know, he can catch up to Chris here. It's doable, it's makeable, it's not that far, but it is going to be a little bit more difficult knowing what's at stake. And you have to put that in the back of your head, but sometimes it's difficult. Good dead bounce, good decision from there. I'd like to see that from Scott, and he's going to start his multi-ball. Scott has really come on in the last couple of years. I don't know how long he's been playing pinball, but he's been playing competitively for probably, oh gosh, probably two and a half years. I could be wrong about that, but at least as long as I've known him. And he is a tough out. He's put me out of a couple tournaments recently, as a matter of fact. And we always seem to get matched up, but he is a great guy. We have a really good time. I always enjoy playing Scott. But Scott, if you're watching, just know that I'm coming for you, and you'll be doing commentary next time. Kind of a funky bounce out of the out lane there. So at this point with the bonus, he's past Chris, but he really has to put some separation between himself and Chris, because we've seen in past videos how Chris can come back. And that's what he does. He's done it so many times. He's been there. He's been in pressure situations. And this is what he likes. He likes to know where he's at. So shot to the right ramp there. We'll give it a ward. Quick freeze. So just ever so slowly hitting those combos and focusing on the right ramp to move yourself back to multi-ball. Nice decision. So he only got one danger out of that. But those are the kind of moves that you want to see on the first ball, so that you know that you can get away with that later, even though it may be going right down the center. You still need to test the waters. Now you don't have to go crazy about it, but if you give it a good shove, you want to think about left to right shoves on something like that, so you know how much you can get away with right down the center. But overall, really solid game from Scott. 1.3 billion is a really good score on this game, in a competition setting especially. So we'll see if Chris is able to come back. So he needs just over 350 million, or 250 million, close to 250 million. So he has 3 freezes lit. And I'm not entirely sure on the rule there, but I believe you have to combo into the right ramp and it'll award you that. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I haven't spent a whole lot of time with this game. But if it were to come up for sale locally, I'd have to grab it, because this is a really fun game. It has great flow. See, he made an attempt to do a live catch on that ball, dead in the momentum at the top of the apex of the flipper, and was unsuccessful, but he was still able to control. He was able to deaden it enough to where that is gnarly. So you can tell he's displeased, but he played a great game. It's a pretty good indicator of how he's playing.
Okay. Good.
Up next we have Indy 500, another Williams game. Seem to have a lot of Williams games from this era in this tournament, which really bode well for me, because these are sort of my specialty in the way that they play. Not necessarily having the most rules knowledge, as you can see Scott's just warming up. Not necessarily having the most rules knowledge on these games, but different manufacturers have a different feel, a very distinct feel in the way that their games play. I tend to play Williams and Data East games, strangely, pretty well, and I can play Stearns well, but it's just different. It's a different feeling. So Chris is gonna power cycle, and you'll see the scoreboard update about halfway through this video. I'm still learning the ins and outs of video editing, so bear with me if there are a few inaccuracies. So it looks like he's tightening the tilt. I think they were trying to tilt the game earlier, and just it didn't seem very fair.
I mean, it would take a ton to do that. All right, you can look and see where I got it. I got it where it's just that much above the ring.
So they're checking it out, making sure everybody knows where the tilt's at. I will say, this is Mike Gray's game at Southern Coin Op and Amusement, and he has done a fantastic job of keeping these games in shape. He's worked for hours upon hours upon hours to get the games ready for this tournament, and for the Pinball and Pelham tournament, which was the week following the state championships. I'm telling you, we couldn't do it without Mike.
I got you.
So thank you, Mike, for all your hard work. So this game is really fast. It's a pretty fun game. It's in really good shape, this one.
All right, man. Good luck. Good luck.
So
We're 1-1 now, right? That's correct. Wow.
let's see what these guys are able to do. So your modes are in the racetrack in the center. Some of the more notable ones are the 3X mode, which is 3X playfield for, I believe, 20 seconds. Quick ball save for Chris. That's okay. He'll get that back. No big deal. You can light your locks on the left orbit, and then you hit a lock from the upper flipper into where the 3 green flashing arrows are in the center. Chris knows this game really well. He was actually teaching me how to play it before the tournament started. So he's not going to be happy with that first ball, but it's okay. You're allowed to have a bad ball every now and again. That's why they give you 3 of them. Just makes it a little bit tougher if Scott's able to put up a good score here on ball 1. That was a nice outlane nudge there from Scott. Scott's a really well-rounded player. I wouldn't say that there's like one facet of Scott's game that is going to impress you more than any other skill set, whether it's nudging or flipper skills or ball saves. But he sort of has it all. He's sort of the complete package when it comes to a player. A little bit of a flipper fumble there. So he's going to be right around the same score as Chris here. Maybe a little bit more, but in terms of first ball, neither one of those were what the players were hoping for. So here comes Chris for his second ball. And he's got his locks lit. Went for the shot on the fly there. The right ramp will feed that flipper, and he got a reject out of the lock. Yep, it seems to do that. It's really difficult very early if you're trying to do an orbit to the lock. The best thing is to do exactly what he just did, is to take that left ramp, snake it around, feed the right flipper, and then hit your lock. That'll send the ball into a centrifuge. And it looks like he is probably going to try to lock the second ball here and go for multi-ball. The ultimate stack is to do the 3X mode with multi-ball. But the modes, I believe, are somewhat random, and you start those at that green saucer way at the top of the playfield. You can see it, the green insert flashing underneath the ramp. So Chris is in multi-ball. In multi-ball, you want to shoot ramps for jackpots. You can also lock balls back into the centrifuge, and if you lock them all in a certain period of time before they all get kicked out, I believe that'll give you a super jackpot. So he's down to 2 balls here, still a good opportunity to score some points. You can see he was trying to shoot the other one in there too. So he has 1 ball locked in the centrifuge, which is nice because for a little while it gives you multi-ball scoring with a single ball in play. So he's doing the same thing here. The ramps are alternating for jackpots. So he, got a reject there. It was a nice shot. Hard to do much better than that. And that he's gone. So he's out of multi-ball. Got some decent value out of it, so hard to have too many complaints about it, but I think there was an opportunity there. He knows it too. You could tell he wasn't too pleased with draining there, but not a big deal. You still have a ball in play. Just time to work yourself back around to another one. And it's not a difficult multi-ball. Multi-balls back in the 90s were a little bit different than how things typically work today, where nowadays you have to sort of progress through the story. Back in these days, you just had to light your lock and lock it. you know, there was typically a shot that would light, and then another shot that would be your actual physical ball lock, such is the case in this game. On the second time around, you have to hit the light lock for each lock, so it gets a little bit more difficult. And I don't know about the third time, but you might have to hit light lock twice, which is, again, the left orbit. The green flashing insert on the left side of the playfield will feed the upper right flipper all the way around. It's really early, but it's a fun shot to make if you can do that on the fly. And on the fly, of course, means while the ball is in motion, while you don't have a trap. So he hits a centrifuge there, but he did not have a lock, so it's going to just spit out another ball for him. So lock is lit again. He'll probably shoot the left ramp here and try to put one in the centrifuge. That's a really good decision there to take a minute, think about it, not try too hard. He's going for a post transfer here, I'm not sure. Looks like he may be going for the right orbit, I'm not. Well, that's alright. A little bit of a fumble there. He couldn't get the post pass to work for him, and in the end it cost him the ball. So he's explaining to it right now. He's saying he saw that the next mode was 3x playfield, so he was going to attempt to start the 3x playfield mode and stack it with multi-ball, which is, that's advanced strategy. I mean, that's a guy who knows a game really well and who's been playing for a long time. And when you're talking about walking into a room where there are 40 plus pinball machines and you have an advanced strategy on all of them, that puts you at a huge advantage over players like me who saw this game for the first time, you know, the day before the tournament. So Scott's got his locks lit, and he's out. He tilted the ball. But you know what? That's okay. I know he knows he shook it a little bit hard there, but I think that was the right decision because it was better than letting the ball go down the drain. And I think one of my favorite phrases in pinball is, you know, a ball in the trough is always going to be worth less than a ball with two dangers, because you still have an opportunity to score points. So he knew he shook it a little bit too hard, but he also knew he did the right thing. You have to give the machine a minute to breathe and let the tilt bob calm down after a pretty good shake like that. And Williams games, for some reason, the tilt bobs tend to be very swingy in them. So if you are on a Williams game from this era, be sure to give that tilt bob some time. So he's going to lock a second ball here. That will start multi-ball. And here we go. So ramps alternating for jackpots. You also want to try to lock 3 balls for a super jackpot. And it's tough. I think it gives you 10 seconds per ball. So if you lock one ball, it gives you an additional, it gives you 10 seconds to put a second one in. And then if you lock the second one, it'll give you an additional 10 seconds. And he's not going to get that back. So no jackpots on that multi-ball. Sort of a wasted opportunity. And he knows that. But again, it's not that difficult to get back around. It's either 4 or 6 shots to get back around to the next multi-ball. And there is a multi-ball mode, but you can see him trying to start. Maybe the mode shot is the right orbit, which he's trying to shoot for. And he got it. So maybe the right orbit will feed mode shot. He'll take the 20 million mystery award there. And now he's got his 3x playfield mode started. So ideally he would have liked to stack that with his multi-ball, but unfortunately he's not going to get that opportunity. And here I'm not sure what the best strategy would be without having multi-ball. That certainly wasn't it. But he's going to finish the game with, let's see, 348 million. That's not a bad score, but it's not a huge score on this game. I would say
I noticed it wasn't
if
I didn't know if you got a jackpot.
if you were going to feel really comfortable with the score, you'd want it to be at least 450. It's just hard to say in a head-to-head tournament. But 348 is reachable. He could put it 250 on one ball, but he's not going to. So Chris is going to take game 3, and he will go up 2-1 against Scott Mount in the Alabama State Championship Final. We're going to move on to Fishtails. And for some reason, these guys like to pick games that I really do not know a whole lot about. This is another one of those games where I think the first time I played it was the morning of the state championship tournament. And it did not want to agree with me. They're just warming up here, testing tilts.
Last weekend, me and Mike played it.
So, it's a fun game. This game is typically configured with what are known as lightning flippers, which are 1/8 of an inch shorter than your typical 3-inch flipper. However, this game does have normal flippers on it, so it shoots a little bit different than your typical Fishtails. And I played Scott on this earlier in the day, and it was not agreeing with me. He plays this game really well. Seems to know this game, have played it before. So he had a pretty clear advantage. So you can see him testing the tilt. He's purposely trying to move the game enough to where he can tilt it so that he knows, and when they get started, and he's surprised, you can tell on his face about how much freedom you get with this game. So he knows that if he needed to, he could slide that across the floor a couple inches to make a save on a ball down the middle of the drain. So it's part of the strategy. If the tournament allows you to take a 30-second practice, and it's a game that maybe you practiced early in the day and haven't touched in a while, I would recommend going up there, starting a game, and making an attempt to tilt the game.
Look at that thing.
So they're in there, again, looking at the tilt bob, seeing where it's set, trying to slow it down so they don't have to wait for it to quit moving. Because it's a Williams, it'll stay going for a good while. So here we go. This is the legitimate game. Scott gets a quick lock. The 3 flashing targets to the upper right-hand part of the playfield is where you'll find the lock shot. Pretty simple rules again. Games from this era, you just lock 3 balls. And he's going to be out in ball 1. Lock 3 balls, start multi-ball. Second time around, I believe you have to hit the lock shot and then lock a ball. Similar to Indy, where it gets a little bit more difficult on the second time around. You also see the crisscross ramps. If you crisscross enough ramps, it will light a monster fish on the left orbit, which I believe is 20 million. Nice save from Chris. Don't think this game has a ball save. It might have. If it does, it's pretty short. You can backhand that lock shot, but it is really tight. So you're better off, that's the strategy you're going for, you're better off going for the forehand shot. So it looks like Chris is going to try to crisscross ramps for a little while. It's just a really dangerous shot if you miss, and that was what I was attempting to do when I first played it. I just couldn't get in a rhythm. But Chris is so good at adjusting to on-the-fly shooting. If you watch his eyes, you can see there's his monster catch. If you watch his eyes, you can tell he watches the ball all the way to the flipper through the stroke of the flipper until the ball leaves, which is why his aim is so good. And he's able to make those minute adjustments in real time a lot of players will look up too early from the flippers or look at the destination of the ball when they flip. Well, the problem with that is that you don't have any consistency about where the ball leaves the flipper. So next time that shot comes around, that's what you call a up and out or a moonwalk. Some people call it, where the ball goes up the in lane and does a little topsy-turvy turn and goes right out the out lane. One of the worst feelings. So here's Scott with 2 locks. One lock. Almost snuck in a second one there on the plunge. And there he goes with the backhand. It's a nice shot. It's really tight. It's really tough to do. Nice save. That was a nice save. It almost put it right in there for him. So he's going to start multi-ball here. And it didn't go. Did not go. So he'll ramp out for a minute and see if he can get some rhythm, catch a big fish. I want to say he put up over 450 million when we played earlier. It was a pretty significant score. So I know that he has an ability to play this game well. He's a multi-ball now. So multi-ball, you want to shoot a ball back into the lock shot. You can see where it's flashing over there, and then I believe that lights your jackpot on the left orbit. So nice bit of control. See if you can let him come to a rest. Get a cradle separation. It's a really great example of that. Nice flick. So now you can see in the upper left corner, you can see the jackpot flashing. I believe it's 50 million. Having trouble finding that shot. I think you can backhand it just like that. 22 million for that jackpot. So now you want to do the same thing again. You want to relock a ball. That will light your jackpot. And I believe the second time around the value's increased. Nice little bit of control. Take a shot. Nailed it. 30 million. So it's a 1-2 punch. Rinse and repeat kind of jackpot system, which is fun. I like games like that. I think this is a game that I actually would really enjoy if I were able to spend any amount of time with it. It's a Mark Ritchie design. He likes to do the crisscross ramps. He also did Taxi, for those of you who are familiar with that game. And Steve Ritchie's older brother, who of course is famous for every single one of his designs, just about. So he's got 10 million a shot on the ramps, and that adds up really quickly on this game. The thing I like about this game is that it's very well balanced in the scoring. So there are ways to fumble there. There are ways to score points like that throughout the game when you're not in multi-ball, but the multi-ball scoring is fair. It's not too much, not too little. So Chris stepping up to the plate here on his second ball. He tried to fire one into the lock and went around the orbit. Just difficult to find that shot. And it's sort of deceiving because it's further back than you would think. Yep, I think he wanted to bounce that over, but yeah, you could tell he got thrown out of his rhythm there because he wanted to bounce that ball over and it wasn't going to bounce back to the flipper, so he had to flip it away, and he wasn't able to get it back into control after he did that. So Scott's kind of back to square one here. He's got no locks, nothing lit. So it's just a matter of rinse and repeat. He'll get that back. Ball save. He likes to fire one in there, and it was nice. Nice little nudge there. So you'll see players of this caliber move the game around. A lot of people, when they're less mature in their pinball playing, I guess you could say, or younger players, newer players, they don't move the game nearly as much as more experienced players, and that's something that you have to practice. It looks like the camera froze up on us here. Oh, he's on video mode, I'm sorry. So he's playing video mode, trying to hit the boat side of the water. It's a fun video mode. I can't decide if I like video modes or not. I think something like this is fine, short's fun, but it has to be really well done. That was pretty well integrated into the theme. So, but like I was saying, that's something you have to practice. You have to say, especially if you have a game at home where it doesn't matter what your scores are. If you want to practice getting longer ball times, you're going to have to practice your nudging. You're going to have to practice moving the machine left and right is more important, I think, of a skill than moving it up and down. You can typically get away with back and forth motion a lot more than you can to side motion, but side-to-side motion is something you have to practice, because if you don't, you're going to miss a lot of saves down the center that you otherwise could have made. And you can get away with a lot more on a modern game that has a timer between hits on the tilt bob. It's called a D-bounce. And the D-bounce will allow you to get away with a lot more than an older game. And typically the penalties on newer games are less severe in terms of bonus to overall score on a newer game. Whereas you may be tilting 10% of your score on an older 70s ballot, you could be tilting as much as 60% of the ball. So it's just the awareness that these guys have, and the knowledge of knowing that they can get away with a tilt. But Chris is really going to have to do a lot of chopping here. Thought he was in multi-ball. I guess he drained out multi-ball there. It'd still give him a jackpot. So he's able to collect a $40 million point jackpot, which helps out a lot. It goes a long way. Okay, so he had a ball lock, so he's still in multi-ball. So he shot the jackpot shot, but it wasn't lit. He still has 2 balls cradled in the flipper. So all he's trying to do at this point is stop that other ball. Just like that. It's really nice separation. Let's see if he backhands. Made the attempt at it. He's just cradling up. Nice little Elwin flick there. Keith Elwin is pretty famous for that move. He's one of the best players in the world. Call this the Elwin pose when you have 2 balls on one flipper and 1 on the other. So his jackpot is lit. Let's see if he tries to do the cradle separation like that. I think it was a little bit harder than he wanted, but it's okay. He set himself up to make a shot here. That was beautiful. That was gorgeous. Just the awareness to have that little flick. I think he should have waited there and tried to cradle up, but I think he was maybe thinking he would take the shot towards the lock while the other ball was still in the pop bumpers and it was out of the way. But it did cost him the ball. And sort of a nasty feed from that, but it's okay. It's going to give him that, and I think it will still give him an opportunity for a few seconds anyway to collect that jackpot. And unfortunately, he won't have the opportunity to do so.
Wow. You hit that, it's over.
So that one shot, I believe, was 50 million, and he wasn't able to collect it. So Scott gets the win, and we're all tied up at 2-2. And we're moving on to The Walking Dead. Walking Dead is a newer Stern game. It's one of those games that I love to hate because it's so difficult. This can be a really difficult game. It's a John Borg design. Fairly recent game. I can't remember exactly what year. It may have been last year or 2016. So fairly new game, but a great game, great design. They're just warming up here. This game will punish you for missing shots, and it will punish you for making your shots, which is one of the greatest things about this game, is that even the layout itself is risk-reward. Because the most important shots on the game are the left side drop targets over there, where you see the 4 rectangular inserts flashing up and down. So in order to start a mode, you have to lock down one set of drop targets, and then shoot a shot, one of the main shots, either at the ramps or the orbits. Will start your mode. And the ideal situation here, there are 2 strategies. Chris plays the bloodbath strategy, where you basically, without making it too complicated, you continue to lay on and knock down those drop targets until you knock down 4 sets, and that will start bloodbath multi-ball. And you want to bring in a multi-ball with a mode. Most people will try to bring in the prison multi-ball, which is the building-looking shot in the center towards the back of the playfield. That is a prison. If you wail on that enough times, it will start prison multi-ball. Most people will try to stack prison multi-ball with a mode, and that's a good strategy. Chris likes to try to go for bloodbath multi-ball.
I'm not going to shove it so we don't have to wait.
And he's not going to get very close to it after that ball. But you could see it just sort of rattled out of the... Oh, he was still practicing. That's why he wasn't going for it. But he was explaining it to me recently, and it's sort of an all-or-nothing strategy, but let's see how far he's able to get into the game. We'll sort of explain it as he goes. This game, see, he was just saying that, hey, we've been playing these Bally Williams games, this is going to be strange. And that goes back to the feeling that each game has, because these sterns tend to be a little bit tighter, and they're newer, so everything's going to be much faster a lot of the times. And the lockdown bars are covered in a different material, and to me they're a lot more slick, so you don't have as good of a grip on the game. It just is a totally different experience than what you would get with a Bally Williams game. And this game is wicked fast. If you miss a shot and you look up, by the time you look back down, the ball might already be in the trough. So it rewards accurate shooting. You can see him going for the drop targets. Looks like he completed a set there, and you can tell all of the mode shots are flashing. He started really the mode that you don't want to start, but he didn't. I don't think he did it on purpose. He started the riot mode, which is a really tight shot next to the prison. And in riot mode, you want to hit the riot shot as many times as you can, essentially, which was what makes it so difficult, is because it's probably the tightest shot in the game. No, it's definitely the tightest shot, probably the most difficult. Maybe on par with the right ramp. But I think it might actually be switch hits. So you want to feed the pop bumpers is why you want to hit the riot shot. Because you really, if you're gonna play out this mode the way it's intended to be played, you want to stack it with the multi-ball. So I'm pretty sure it's a switch hit. And by that I mean you want to hit as many targets as you can throughout the course of the mode. So he has qualified the prison, which essentially means that, he is tilt. He tilted. Had a lot of good things going on that ball. He was playing well, and you could tell that, even though the tilt bob it might have hit several times, 5 or 6 times, it went, instead of going, danger, danger, tilt, it went danger, danger, tilt. That's the difference between an older game and a newer game, is that D-bounce. So you can typically get away with a pretty good shove on a game like this. So Scott's going to let that one take a breather. Let the tilt bob. You can see he's got the timer out for 1 minute.
Yeah, it just kept going. I mean, we looked at it. Yeah, so you get dangerous. It's not that high. It's just a real.
So.
Man.
I guess I'll use this time to talk a little about the other group that's playing. In the other group, we have Addison Mount, who is Scott's son. He's 14 years old. He's a great guy, great kid. He's a really good player. He's been playing for probably about a year or so. We see him at all the major tournaments in Alabama. Unfortunately, they live in Auburn, so they can't play in league with us. But they've started their own league down there. They have their own Auburn tournaments. It's really great to see these guys, really class act fellas. And then on the other side of that game, you have Braden Gentry, who is Stephen Gentry's son. So shout out to those guys. Another cool group from Auburn. Every time we have a tournament, they come over here and they do the takeover. So both of those guys played well enough to get into the state tournament. And Braden and Addison both are playing well enough to make it all the way to the semifinal round, which is pretty cool. Because Braden is also, is he 15? He's pretty young too. He's part of the next generation. So it's great to see those guys. And I would say in a couple years they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But the level of competition now in the state is just, even compared to 2 years ago, really, when I got started, has just increased tenfold because everybody has, all the serious players have games in their house. They practice, they play every day. They get better and they get better. And I can see that even in my own game. So I think currently I'm 5th or 6th in the state. And the guys in front of me, they go to national tournaments. Chris finished 4th in a Stern Pro Circuit event last year, or this year actually, in Louisville. So these guys have major tournament experience. David Taylor and Timothy Street went to California recently to play in the It Never Drains in Southern California tournament. So it's just great to see everybody growing and getting better. It makes it more fun. It makes it more challenging. It makes you want to get better, that you have to compete with these guys every day. And it takes some time to get to that level, but it also helps because newer players are able to come in and get advice from these guys, and everybody in the community is so nice. I don't think anybody would ever tell you, no, I'm not gonna help you play this game, unless you were in a situation maybe like the state tournament where you're supposed to know already. If you're in the top 16 players, you're supposed to know the rules to these games, or at least have a layman's strategy on every game. So you can see Scott wailing away here. Let's see, he is going for the mode targets on the left side. So really the whole game doesn't start until you complete a set of those targets. Looks like he's done that, so his modes are lit. Let's see which one he chooses to take. He went for the arena mode on the right side. And as a general rule on this game, you start a mode, it's not a bad idea to continue to hit that same shot. That's why I like to start the CDC mode. While it may not be the most valuable initially, just because it's that ramp right there that he just hit, it's a wider shot, and it will allow you to kind of get into the mode feel of the game. You can see he's got extra ball lit on the right side, if you're familiar with this game, but all the extra balls are turned off. So I think it's worth $2.5 million. So he's going to try for the right ramp. He's going to hit it successfully. It's a really tough shot to do back-to-back like he just did, so that's a really great showcase of skill right there from Scott. Another great save. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, but the fact that he was able to keep that ball out of the center is pretty impressive. Because that happened so quickly in real time underneath the glass that you've got to have some pretty quick reaction time and able to pull that off. So after 2 balls, really not much going for either player. These are not what you would consider great scores after 2 balls. To put this in perspective, Chris's all-time score on this game, he's got the grand champion score at our local pinball hangout. It's close to 1 billion points. So he's sitting here 22 million. Not that great, and that's going to be the end of the game. And
I just kind of stood there and watched.
I don't think either one of these guys would be happy with their performance there, but Scott's going to take the win without even having to play the third ball. So he's going to go ahead of Chris 3-2, and that's the end of The Walking Dead. It was a quick game, it was a very brutal game, very fast game. That's just the way that this game goes. It's just the way that this game goes. So he started a multi-ball on the plunge there, which is really funny, because he was just trying to end the game. It's pretty funny. They're trying to figure out how that's got started, so we're going to move on to Spider-Man. And in stark contrast to The Walking Dead, Spider-Man is a game that tends to play pretty long, except for this one. Mike made this game particularly gnarly on purpose because he knew the tournament was coming up and that these guys were going to be able to play it for a long time, so he took the opportunity to move the outlane posts all the way up and tighten up slingshots and essentially do everything he could to make the game difficult to play, hard to play, and really, in my opinion, the way that it should be played, hard, really difficult. You can see it barely touch the sling there, and they're just warming up. So I will say that he did give some leeway with the tilt on this game, so it's not a world championship tilt, but it is a state championship tilt, if that makes any sense. So they are sliding the glass off or something. Bulb or something must have come off the play field. It's one thing about pinball that makes it such a pain and also such a beautiful thing is that it is a physical game, and I think that is what draws a lot of us to the game. It's a pain because you have to keep the games maintained and make sure that they're playing well, which can take some time to develop those skills to do properly. But it also is such a beautiful thing because it opens you up to so many more things. I mean, I've learned about electronics, I've learned about playfield restoration, I've learned about so many other things other than just pinball, just playing pinball. You learn so many different skills that can be translated into life skills. And I know that sounds crazy to think about, but it really kind of helps you understand the way that the mechanical world works. So, here we go. This is ball one in the real game. Chris is down 2-3 in a best of 7. So, it's do or die for Chris here, which is a situation that he does not find himself in very often. Typically, Chris will jump out to an early lead and make you battle back. So it's interesting to see him in this situation. We'll see if he's able to pull it out here. So there's typically a gate right there next to that upper flipper that will slow down the ball. And I can't tell if it's installed or not, but there's a perfect example. That ball is gone. The ball save is turned off, so you will not get that ball back. It's part of trying to make the game more difficult. So I would say in a tournament setting, head-to-head, you're trying to shoot for a score on this game. A game set up this difficult, probably about 100 million, would probably get you to win in a head-to-head situation, depending on your partner or your playing partner. And just like that, that's the end of Scott's ball. So there's a testament to how difficult the outlanes are, and the fact that there's no ball save will really just show you how difficult it can be to keep the ball in play. So the typical strategy that Chris goes for is the same one that I do. because he taught me how he plays the game. He will start his Doc Ock multi-ball, which is 2 shots to the shot that he just made right there where the magnet is holding the ball. And he will use that time to make progress towards his other multi-ball. So you'll see him take a shot right there at the other lock target, and now that frees up the orbits to make a lock for Black Suit multi-ball. And he will also peck away at the Doc Ock shots, which are lit, the red arrows across the playfield. So he just lit a ball for working towards his next multi-ball. And it was good for a jackpot. And the cool thing about this game is that even if you're in multi-ball, it can be difficult to rack up a bunch of points at one time. So it rewards you for keeping the ball in play, so you're not going to be able to rack up, huge multi-million point jackpots. You're going to have to chunk away at it with smaller 100,000 point jackpots, but the multi-ball is essentially just your safety net in this game. So you'll probably see him try to cradle separate, getting 750,000 points a shot over on those left green targets because of the green goblin mode is active, and looks like 300,000 points for jackpots on the red lit shots. So he's out of multi-ball, but he's got his second lock ready to go on the left orbit, which I think he was taken for there, but missing low is okay because he got credit for the green goblin. So 2 locks towards Black Suit, 1 more lock, and he will be able to go right into Black Suit multi-ball. The lock target is, if you see the green flashing lights on the left side that he just hit, it's just above that. It's a little green flashing arrow. And it's a really, not a difficult shot to make necessarily, to hit, to aim for, but it's a difficult shot to survive because it will send the ball, depending on where you hit it, it could be anywhere. If you miss just slightly, it will send the ball all kind of crazy places, and typically towards the outline on a game setup this difficult. Nice controlled slow play from Chris. I think he was trying to backhand the Doc Ock shot there. Double danger. Double danger. So he'll be walking on eggshells for the rest of the ball, but he still has the ball. So he's still able to continue to make those points. So he just hit his lock target, and that's okay. He'll have that multi-ball ready to go on ball 3. So pretty decent ball, considering how difficult the game's set up. But it's really clean. This is a super nice example of this game that Mike has. It's color DMD, as you can tell, which really helps to complete the look of the game. And this is the Vault edition of this game, which is essentially the same game that came out in 2007 from none other than the famous Steve Ritchie, but with different artwork and different callouts. I think this version of the game is better just based on the art alone. So he's going to give it a second to calm the tilt bob. And you would think that he has a pretty comfortable lead with almost 30 million to Scott's 4.7, considering that the first ball was 1.3 million and lasted all of 10 to 15 seconds. But that's not to say that Scott can't come back and beat him. This is a game that kind of suits Scott's style, where you don't have to be flashy to do well in this game. You just have to be consistent. You have to be able to keep the ball in play. You have to be able to make your shots, but it's not deadly misses necessarily as bad as The Walking Dead. So you're able to keep the ball in play. So if you're able to make your shots, but even if you miss, and you have the skill set to be able to keep the ball in play after a miss, say with your nudging or with your slap saves or that type of pinball play, the sort of survival play that Scott certainly has the ability to do, you're going to be successful in a game like this. So let's see if Chris is able to extend his lead at all. You can see the 2 green arrows on the outer shots. Those are for the lock. So he's going to take a shot here towards the lock to start his multi-ball. And he's trying to get it. Got to make it all the way back around to the back. Good decision. There you go. Just trap up. Just try to survive it. You really want to avoid the side-to-side motion on this game. Because if you get the ball into the slingshots, and that is really upsetting. All he needed to do was make one of the 2 outside shots to start multi-ball, and he wasn't able to do it.
Wow.
So he still has a somewhat comfortable lead. But you have to keep in mind that these guys are the best in the state. You know, it's not uncommon to think that Scott would be able to come back and take this one. Just a little bit more advanced tip about the game. The white arrows are for your modes. You want to complete all your white arrows, and it will send you into one of your hero modes, which you can stack. That's how you're going to get some decent points on this game, is by stacking and stacking and stacking. So stacking multiple villains with, I don't know if you can stack a hero and a villain, but stacking multiple villain modes with your multi-ball. You really don't want to stack 2 multi-balls together, because the jackpots don't really increase that much, and you're sort of denying yourself an opportunity to work back around towards a multi-ball more quickly the next time around. So you want to use your multi-ball to, whichever one you start, either the Doc Hawk multi-ball or the Black Suit multi-ball, to work towards the other, but you don't want to start it until after you have completed whichever multi-ball you're in, or after you've drained out of it. So he's got Black Suit locks lit. Nice inlane kind of rattle there. Yep, you can see he's sort of flailing. He needs to kind of calm down, see if he can get the ball under control, get a trap here, but at least he's got to get it to the flipper for a shot after it comes out of the Doc Hawk here. So he needs to take it on the fly to the left side. There you go. That's the way you want to do it. Just nice and relaxed. Line your shot up. Probably take the backhand here. Yeah, he went for it, but he missed. All right. Just nice, calm. There you go. So that was a really good example of what I was just talking about. He only needed that 1 shot to start the multi-ball. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I thought that was the 3rd lock. So he's got 2 locks lit, which means he has to survive a shot on that little green target, and then a shot to the orbit. Which sounds like it's easy, but on a game that is difficult setup as this one, it can be hard. So he's got his lock lit, and he's going to start Black Suit multi-ball. Nice little decision there, just to let the ball kind of comfortably hop over to the right flippers where you can have a clean shot. And the jackpots in this multi-ball are your white shots. And you want to complete all of the white shots on the playfield. And that'll light your super jackpot. I think, I'm not sure where it lights though. Can't quite remember. So I would be thinking, if I'm Scott, for quick points, I would be thinking, if I get an opportunity to get 2 balls on the left flipper and 1 on the right, I'd be thinking about going for the targets on the left that he just hit by accident right there. The green goblin jackpots, because he's really close. He's already passed Chris's score, actually, so he's going to take the win. Scott's going to take the win from Chris Warren, who was the #1 seed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say for sure.
So he's got it. He's going to be moving on to the final round of the Alabama State Championship, which means that he can do no worse than 4th place. And we'll find out in a minute who he'll be facing in the final round. But since he knows he's close, he still needs to be thinking, okay, need to be getting quick points here, and the quickest point opportunity are the green targets on the left. But unfortunately for Chris, he doesn't need it, and Chris is eliminated. But you know, he's got enough of these. I think 3 should be the maximum on state championships you can have. So you got to share the love, Chris. And I know he watches all the recordings, so he played really well that day, but Scott just had the best of him. So we're going to move on to the finals, and you can see the winner of the last round was Addison Mount. So we have a all Auburn, all Mount, Alabama pinball state championship final. So congratulations already to those guys down in Auburn. So without even getting into it, the trophy's already going to go down there to the Mount household, and they were pretty thrilled to find that out. So good for you guys. We're really happy for you. But let's see here. Let's watch this and see how it plays out. We'll watch and see how it's going to play out and who actually gets to claim the trophy and the bragging rights down there between these two guys. It's going to be interesting. I have played Addison before in tournaments, but I have never really sat down and tried to evaluate his style and the type of play. You can see handshake there, all smiles from these guys already. I'm sure they're thrilled. So it's going to be interesting to get a look at Addison and the way that he plays and the decisions that he chooses to make. So Scott quickly in a multi-ball. 1, 2, 3. Bada bing, bada boom. He's going for the jackpot there. The cool thing about this multi-ball is it tells you exactly where you need to shoot the ball. And that would be the upper shot. Now it is the left ramp, center ramp here. So now the right ramp. Too many things going on there at one time for him to be able to make that. Nice decision there. All right. So now that you have control, this is pretty ideal. You want to try to flick. The idea there was to flick one ball instead of 3 over to the other side. So now he's created a little bit of chaos, so he needs to try to get back to that situation where he can have control. So he'll get a shot at the ramp here. He's going to miss it, but just needs to try to get to a point where he can have control over both balls, ideally one on each flipper. Yeah, I think he kind of bumped that ball out of there in the out lane. But that's a difficult decision to make. If you're going to do that, you want to try to really give it a good shove. The idea is to get the ball out of that area entirely and back out into the field of play. So 271, 570 for Scott on the first ball, which is serviceable for a first ball, although I think he would expect to do quite a bit better on the second ball. Nice on the flash shot from Madison there. 1, 2. You want to hit a right ramp, and then you want to hit the right there next to the flipper. Oh, so he's already a multi-ball, excuse me. So Addison's a multi-ball. Got to hit the left ramp. Should give him a nice feed. Yeah, little too many things going on at one time. So now he has some control. He should be able to pop that right over. So he's just trying to get rid of that ball. I think there was an opportunity to maybe try a post pass if you knew, since he knew that the other ball was headed down the inlane. I don't know if I would have necessarily flicked it away because there was only one shot that could have been made and you couldn't make it from the left flipper. Maybe something to look at in the future, or just to think about making a different decision next time. It didn't cost him the ball, but it did create a little bit of chaos that could have been otherwise avoided. So one thing I'm noticing right away from Addison, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 shots in a row, just slamming home these on-the-fly shots. It's a really difficult adjustment to make if you're used to aiming from a resting position on the flipper. So his style is sort of reminiscent of Timothy Street, sort of on the fly, very flowy, very smooth. Doesn't pause a whole lot. Doesn't stop to think. But he knows the rules of this game. They have it at their house, so he doesn't have to think about it too hard. Right now, he's worried about hitting lit shots for combos and working towards getting lock freezes to start multi-ball. That was a nice little nudge there. Very subtle, but it was just enough to get the ball out of that whole area and back into the field of play. So he's sort of chunking away at the points here. 30 million for the Maximize Freeze Award. Well, he's got that dialed in. See, he is also not using the triggers, which some players would like to do. Nice little rattle. So he's putting together a really good first ball here. So I think you want to, at this point, you want to try to hit the right ramp, if I'm not mistaken, because he's going to be out there. But that was a really nice ball. That will give you progress towards your next multi-ball, hitting that shot. That seems to be the shot to take, even though, because ordinarily that shot would activate the claw and would allow you to choose a reward. But taking that shot, the right ramp, will still allow you to receive a reward, but it will be sequential. And if you hit it enough, that's really nothing you can do about that. That's just a missed shot. He hit the stand-up target next to the ramp, and it fired it right down the middle. You really don't have enough time to react to something like that. It's just gone. So Addison's feeling pretty good about his opportunity at hand. You can see he's really a rhythm player. You can tell because he sort of took his hand way off the machine there after he went after that ramp. Usually that's an indication that somebody's really feeling the shots in a game. Like, yeah, I got that. But it's also sort of a dangerous thing because if you were to miss and he had his hand up above his head and that ball comes screaming back down, you brick the shot and miss it, and you have to make a save with the right hand. Well, you may be out of luck because the hand's in the air. That's one thing that I used to do myself. Had to kind of consciously teach myself. Try to keep your hands as close to the machine as you can because that will increase your reaction time. And doing anything different is just going to slow you down. So, Scott is on his third ball, so his last opportunity to come back and catch Addison. And it can be done. I mean, especially from a guy who knows the rules, knows the game, is familiar with this game in particular. You could just tell he's really uncomfortable, though. He just doesn't look like he has the shots. And he's not nervous. It's just that because he's been in this situation before. He's been in big tournaments. Sometimes you just expect the game to feel different, or you just sort of tense up a little bit because of the situation, and you don't have quite the flow that you did the first pass. So he's just barely missing. When you're a quarter of an inch off. That was a nice save, though. This would be a good time to kind of trap up. If you're bricking shots left and right, you want to take some time, take a breather if you can. But if you are continuously missing shots and the game doesn't know where the ball is, it will go into a ball search. And when that happens and you're actually playing, that's called a skill search, which I think is hilarious. So you can tell he's just sort of out of rhythm. in a game that requires rhythm. But he's chipping away. He just needs something sort of big here. I think he should have taken a shot at the right ramp because he's got he has multi-ball lit. So that would have given him the ball on the right flipper to hit the shot just above the upper flipper to start multi-ball. That he just barely missed right there. It can be a difficult thing sometimes to feed that right flipper, and this is not a game that lends itself well to post passing or any of your other typical transfers. So he's going to get the ball on the right flipper. He's going to go for a multi-ball and just miss it to the right. It's a little bit early. You want to try to do that again, make the adjustment, make a conscious effort to say, okay, I missed that a little bit too early, need to adjust. Alright, here we go. Missed it early again. That's why you have to be watching the flippers so that you can make that decision and say, okay, if this is the point where I hit the button or released it from the flipper on the first shot, where do I need to be on the next time around? Where do I need to make that release? Great! He almost saved that ball. But Addison put up two really good, well, really the first ball was all he needed. That first ball was excellent. So Addison is going to take game one from his dad. He can come up here and plunge it off, and that always feels good to get off to a good start like that. Ordinarily, you are able to continue in earlier rounds if you want for practice in case you happen to catch it earlier. I think he's kind of goofing around. He's just playing multi-ball just for fun. He's going to let it go. So, nice job from Madison there to take game one. We're going to move on to Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone is a classic, and this one is set up really pretty difficult to hit the back ramps. And I don't think they've owned one, but I know that this is a game that Scott's really familiar with, so he's already locked a ball. This is another one of those. That's sort of Scott's specialty. That's the end of that ball. But that's sort of Scott's specialty is the mid-90s Bally Williams games. That could have been, I was going to say it was practice, but it wasn't.
41,360
So Heston's going to step up here for his first ball. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the second ball. So he must have skipped ahead a little bit in the action here. So what you want to do on this game is you want to hit your left ramp in the very back center of the playfield. Come all the way back around to the left flipper. That will light your locks. And the locks are all the way back in the back of the playfield next to that big box looking thing on the right side. That will start your multi-ball if you lock 3 balls and you want to hit them in the shot underneath the clock. It's actually a clock. It looks like a box on the screen. But there's a shot underneath there. It will be your jackpot shot. So this is one of the cool things about this game. It's called Powerball. It's actually a much lighter, much faster ball. And if you're able to put the Powerball into the gumball machine in the back left via the right orbit, it will give you an instant multi-ball. So let's see if he's able to put it back in there. It sort of makes the game unfair, but it also sort of makes the game have that extra element to it, which is kind of, pinball should be a little bit about luck, kind of like poker. There's a reason you see the same guys at the final table during those big tournaments, but at the same time there's the element of the unknown, which is what makes pinball special. Let's see. So now Scott has an opportunity to lock the Powerball and start multi-ball. because Addison was unsuccessful. And he does. So he's going to get multi-ball here. Gotta try to trap up. Yeah, you can see. Okay, there we go. Nice shot there. So you want to shoot the right ramp to feed that upper flipper shot, that little shot right up there. It's a difficult thing to do with. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so on this Powerball multi-ball, you want to feed the mini playfield, which you can see on the left side. He's trying to basically get it. This little hole in the top of the pyramid there. That will give you, I believe, 15 million for the first completion if you put it in that hole. But instead of having flippers up there, there are magnets. So you're controlling the ball with these magnets. This is kind of a neat feature of this game. Missed the shot, but he's going to throw a second ball up there. See, it's sort of a difficult thing to do. And he's going to miss it again. Nice nudge through. Yeah, you'll see that a lot on this game, the reject out of the ramps. There goes another one. I'm not sure why this Twilight Zone does that in particular, but it's just one of those things you have to deal with. You can see him trying to make that back lock shot there, which is way back behind the regular locks. Let's see. They weren't already lit. Camera award's just one of those little chunks of points. In the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean too much, but it's nice to collect when you can. I believe his regular locks are lit right there. That shot way back in the back, almost towards the back of the playfield. I guess not. So he needs to hit the left ramp. To light his lock. So here's another opportunity. Nope, couldn't get it that time either. It's sort of a weird, fickle beast, but his lock is lit now. You can see right next to the clock, the big box in the back. You can see that little tiny flashing arrow. That's the shot you have to make your locks way back there. So we'll see if he's able to lock 3, 2. Not sure what he was going for. I guess he was trying to transfer. I think you can post pass pretty easily on this game. So I think that's what I would have done. He's going to try to shoot for the piano, I think is what the shot's called. So he's doing a good job of keeping the ball alive, but he's not really racking up any really significant points in any way. Nice save there, nice nudge. All the way back in the back, and he's got one. So that was ball 2. Put another ball on the lock back there, and you start multi-ball. It's just such a difficult shot because it's so far away. And this is a wide body game. It just makes it look so easy. This is a wide body game, so it looks even smaller than it actually is. So we'll see what he is able to do with his multi-ball. That shot that he just attempted right there with the small flipper on the upper left was the jackpot shot. You can see the clock flashing. That is the money shot. It can be difficult to feed that flipper. The idea is to hit the right ramp back there with the... Well, it's not difficult to feed the flipper necessarily. It's difficult to feed the flipper and maintain control of 3 balls at a time. But he was able to... Oh, he's going to get a jackpot there. And you light the jackpot.
He relight the jackpot by hitting the white flashing shot
I can't
from
remember. I believe
center
you have
left
to
to
hit
the
one of the
plate
ramps.
fields underneath.
Or you hit the
pyramid shot's called the camera
shoot
shot.
the camera shot to relight the jackpot. So the camera shot is the shot underneath the pyramid from the bottom right flipper.
Ball stuck on the magnet.
Get a ball stuck.
So we have a situation here where the ball is stuck on the magnet, and we're going to edit out. It looks like majority of this footage. He's got a ball stuck on the magnet. It comes down to
which they did fix
for the next tournament, but we'll go ahead and skip forward.
Opportunity where he
until gets
can
that off. Either lose his multi-ball because the flippers will die if you open the coin door, or he can try to remove it himself. Those are the only rules. You are not allowed to play a stuck ball during multi-ball, and you are not allowed to take a shot to remove the ball. So as Chris is explaining right now, you can either nudge it loose, or you can lose your multi-ball, and those are really the only two options at the moment.
And I apologize because we tried to fix that. It's stuck on that.
So there was an attempt made. He's just saying earlier in the week there was an attempt made to fix that issue. It was a known issue with the game. It doesn't happen very often, but unfortunately for Scott, it happened here. So I think he's going to use the opportunity to try and save the multi-ball and shake it out himself.
See, I got ball trap. Well, never ball search.
I think you should be able to take a shot at that ball. Personally, I think you ought to be able to
Yeah, I have to either nudge it out or lose my multi.
be able to knock it out with another ball. So he's going to lose his ball there, unfortunately, and you know there was another option there that he probably should have taken, but he still has a pretty comfortable lead over Addison at the moment. So
I didn't know how to type.
still difficult for him to come back, although it is possible for Addison. He's a good player.
Oh yeah, you gotta help him. Yeah.
So we'll see what Addison has for us on ball 3.
Yeah, that figured into it. Yeah, we tried to fix it. Yeah. So you know all we gotta do is we gotta take that four all the way out. Put it on the bench.
So he gets his left ramp,
Get you a big ass.
shooting for the right ramp. The right ramp will light your locks.
And break that nut loose.
There we go.
And that's going to be the end of the ball. So
He's just
turns out Scott's unfortunate mishap there with the ball getting stuck didn't really affect him too much. And he's going to take the win on the game. We're going to move into game 3, which I believe is Iron Man. We're gonna move into game 3 tied at 1-1. Addison is up first. And for some reason, we only captured the third ball in this game. Not really sure why the video got clipped the way that it did. Or maybe they're just practicing. Yeah, so this is just a practice game. This Iron Man is really fast. It's set up to play really hard, as they all are. It's a pretty difficult game just in general. There are a few strategies you can play for. The most common strategy is to hit the orbit shots, hit the spinners, which will bring up your Ironmonger. And if you bash on the Ironmonger 6 times, it will start Ironmonger multi-ball. And in that, you want to hit the spinner again to bring the Ironmonger up. Bash him 6 more times, and that will light your super jackpot in the center shot for $2.5 million. So it's pretty complicated multi-ball in terms of what you do, the rules-wise, but if you can pull it off, it's a pretty sweet shot nailing that super jackpot. And then once you do that, it just starts all over again. That's one of the common strategies to go for on this game. I like to jump out early and combo the ramps back and forth if they both feed the flippers. And it brings up, after a certain amount of shots, brings up a mode called bogey mode, where you're essentially getting $1 million, $1.5 million per ramp shot for, I believe, 20 seconds. It's a timed mode, but it's a good way to get out. And they're safe shots. It's a good strategy to start on ball 1 because it'll give you opportunity to make some relatively safe shots on a game that likes to be pretty gnarly in the out lanes. So we'll see what strategy Addison takes here. Looks like he may be going for the bogey mode. He's trying to ramp out. Ramps are... that was a savable ball. He could save that, but it's hard to tell in real time, especially coming off the ramp like that. So Scott's going to be up here. There's no real skill shot to speak of.
on this game. I believe there is a super skill shot, but it's not worth going for, and that's the end of Scott's ball. I don't even think he got a flipper on it. So, unfortunate start for both players. Not too good for either one, but there's still 2 more balls left, so we'll see if they can put up a decent score here. This game's set up pretty difficult, sort of similar to the Spider-Man. And that's the end of Addison's ball. So he's going to have one more opportunity to put up a score against Scott here, and he's sitting around 1.3 million, which is, you know, not very good considering you would feel comfortable with a score on Iron Man somewhere around 20-25 million in a head-to-head match against a player like Scott. We'll see, another part of the strategy of this game is to complete your Iron Man, Monger, Whiplash, War Machine, and whatever the other one is, I can't remember. But if you complete all of those, it will light Jericho mode, which is essentially your mini wizard mode. A lot of players, once you finish with your Monger, will attempt to play through the rest of those. Whiplash is also a multi-ball. Tends to be pretty dangerous. Go for that because the ball will oftentimes sling right down the middle off the magnet. And that shot is just to the left of the right ramp. So he's going to use his ball save. And it's going to go right out the out lane. I mean, that's pretty gnarly. Those out lanes are, I believe, are all the way up. So there's really not an opportunity for the player to push it back into play. Once it goes into that area, you really need to give it a good shove. I would have liked to seen him, if he knew he was going to go out, just really, you know, really push the game really hard. Because that would give him an opportunity to see, all right, where's the tilt at? Nobody's really doing anything. And that's the end of Addison's ball, just like that, out the left out lane. You're going to see that all day on the Iron Man with the posts set as high as they are. And a lot of that has to do with the unique geometry of the game down there. The post is set a lot lower than the slingshot, which typically on Stern games they're about even, so you have a greater opportunity to push the ball back into the end lane. But because the post is lower on the left side of the end lane, it bounces off, and just like it did off of the slingshot and then off of the top of that post and down the out lane. There's really nothing you can do to save that. It's similar to Next Generation, Star Trek The Next Generation, in that way where it can be really difficult to get the ball out of the out lanes because of that unique geometry. So Scott's making sure that he doesn't tilt this ball because he really doesn't need that many points. He can ramp out here, maybe hit 5 or 6 ramps and combo the ramps, and he'll be in the clear. 3 million is not a great score on this game, and it is achievable. So we'll see if he's able to pick up a point here. He's also 1 shot away from Monger, but he took a War Machine shot. I'm not really sure what that was about. It's a pretty dangerous shot because it fires the ball back at the flippers like we just saw. Now he's got a lot of side-to-side action. Good job controlling off of that. It can be dangerous. So now he has War Machine multi-ball lit, which is that flashing blue shot on the left side. But he's going to take the opportunity to go for Monger. Monger is lit. With the settings, you have to hit the upper middle shot to start. Never mind, it was just flashing. So he's in Monger here. He's got to hit the Monger 6 times to start multi-ball. And he's not going to do it, but he may get him in bonus. Nope. So Scott is going to be really disappointed with that game, and you would think that both players are going to be disappointed with that game, but it's just the belly. It's just the beast that is Iron Man. That this particular Iron Man, this is set up to be a difficult game. And as you can see, nothing but drains. So Addison's going to take the win there with $3 million. So we're going to move into Fishtails, which is a game that we saw earlier in the coverage. So we know that Scott can play this game really well. It's a game that he beat me on earlier in the tournament. And this is sort of his specialty, or games from this era. So you can see he's already got a quick lock lit. And that's the end of the ball. But I guess it was a practice ball. Or was it? Yeah, it looks like they're just doing practice ball. Because it's a one-player game. So again, the players are allowed a 30-second practice. This is a Mark Ritchie design. You would consider this a solid B-list title. This isn't an A-list game that everybody would clamor for to have in their collection, but a lot of people would love to have it in their collection. If you can get one at a good deal, it's a good game to keep around for sure. And you would think a pretty good tournament score on this game would be probably around 400 million in a head-to-head setting. You'd feel pretty comfortable if you got to that point. So he's going to fire it up, and we're going to get started. Yeah, he likes to go for that quick lock right off of the plunge and just sort of on the fly fling it with the left flipper into the lock shot. And that was a bit of a flipper fumble there. He could have made a better decision on how to catch that ball. This is one where you know, if you're Scott, you really need to jump out to an early lead. You can see Addison going for the same on-the-fly shot to the lock. And he's going to get one. That's the thing about this game, is that there's not a ton of strategy involved. There are really only two ways to play the game. You play for multi-ball, or you play for catching big fish. At the moment, it looks like he's going for his catch. And it gives you a certain amount of time where you crisscross the ramps, a certain amount of times, and it will light the left orbit to catch a fish. And he's going to go ahead and take his second lock. So he's sort of doing a hybrid strategy here. But showing good control over the game, good control over his shots. So he just caught a monster fish for 20 million. And a lot of players like that strategy because the lock shots can be difficult to hit at times. And you can tell he's not pleased with himself on that, but he's got a decent lead after ball one. Oh, he didn't get his fish. He had it lit though, I believe. So he's at 13 million. That's a really dangerous shot right there, and that's exactly why. Because if you're taking the shot right at the middle, and generally in pinball, you want to avoid shots where anything is pointing directly towards the center, because it's gonna hit that target and fire right back down the middle, and before you know it, the ball's gone. So you want to avoid two things when you're thinking about what shots you want to take. You want to avoid anything that comes right back towards the middle, and you want to avoid anything that's going to create unnecessary side-to-side motion. Because when you get that ball into the slingshots and you get it going to side to side, you're opening yourself out to outlane drains. And he's going to start multi-ball. So give him a good opportunity to really put his foot on the gas pedal, get out in front of Scott as far as he can. Since Scott only has one ball left, this is a great opportunity for him to put pressure on him, which is why I prefer to go first, so that you can put yourself in these types of opportunities. But if the player in front of you doesn't take advantage of doing the same thing and putting big points up on the board to put you in that situation, if you're the second player, you've got to take that opportunity when it presents itself. So a lot of people think, okay, well, you know, this is a good thing on ball 3 so I can know that where I am, but you also have to keep in mind where you are on ball 2, because right here Addison has an opportunity to put up a really good score and essentially win the game before Scott even walks up and puts a foot next to the game. Because when you walk up and you know that you have to overcome a huge deficit mentally, it can be very challenging to do so. And that's not to say that he can't do it, but Addison needs to take the opportunity to put himself in a really good spot to take the win here. Which, so far, based on Scott's first 2 balls, he's doing that right now. But, you know, we've seen before that Scott has the ability to score well in this game. He just has to put it all together when he needs it. A little bit of flail in there. You need to kind of take a step, try to capture the ball, slow down, take a breath. He's able to get a lock. That could just be part of Addison's style. You know, I mentioned earlier I haven't watched him play a whole lot on video, if at all. So it could be sort of his style to sort of flail away. We see that a lot with Timmy Street. He doesn't take an opportunity to slow the game down a whole lot, except he will. If he's long in a ball, he'll try to trap up and take a breath, but not frequently. You don't see him do that very often. He likes to score all of his points as quickly as he can. It's just he likes to get into the rhythm of the game and don't let it stop him. So he's going to start another multi-ball here. And again, the multi-ball, you want to put a ball in the lock, and then you want to shoot the left orbit for your jackpot. So he's going to let those balls drain to free up some space on the flipper so that he can have an opportunity to take shots at the lock. Put those balls in the pop bumpers, give him a second to take his shots. So he's down to 2 balls here. But really putting together a solid ball. Doing exactly what I was just talking about, taking the opportunity to put himself well ahead of Scott, so that when Scott comes up here, he knows that he's got to put up a pretty good ball in order to get him, to beat him, and then knowing that you not only have to catch Addison's score, but you have to put up a decent score on top of that, because he'll still have an opportunity for a 3rd ball after Scott has his 3rd ball. So he's going to do 16 million off the video mode, which is pretty good value considering the scores at the moment. So he's just sort of chopping away. It's rinse and repeat, multi-ball or cross ramps. That's a dangerous shot there at the captive ball in the center. So he's already put up a pretty comfortable lead over Scott. There you go. That's a good opportunity to take a break. He didn't take one for long. He's still in the rhythm, gets a nice bounce into the lock there, so he's only 2 shots away from multi-ball again. So he didn't get any jackpots on the last multi-ball. So it was more of an insurance policy than anything else. But here you would think you need to think about doing just that. Trapping up, maybe doing a post transfer here. I mean, I'm sorry, a cradle separation like he's attempting to do, where you get the balls on one on each flipper. Just a light little flick, it'll come down and roll off the other ball, and then onto the other flipper. So he wants to try to put one into the lock here. And he was able to do that. So there's your jackpot. $32 million for that one shot. So if he can do that maybe 2 or 3 more times, you're talking about Scott having to have, at this point, 10 jackpots to catch Addison and put some distance between the two of them on his third ball, which is a pretty difficult task. So Addison's doing a really good job here of putting pressure. So he's already again 1 shot away from multi-ball, and that was it. On the fly, if you can get that shot down, that's a legitimate strategy on this game. Coming off the left orbit, off the plunge, right into the lock. Just 3 quick ones like he just did. That's okay, he'll get that one back. But put one in the lock here, and then you go for your multi-ball, and he's racking up these little points, double crosses, and there's your jackpot. So he needs to lock another ball. And there's his lock. No, sorry, I thought it went in the lock, so. So he's choosing the insurance policy to crisscross his ramps. And he just got 100 million jackpot right there, which is huge. So Addison has essentially just won the game on that multi-ball, I would think, because Scott, even though he could come back and do it, it's extremely difficult based on how uncomfortable he seemed in the first 2 balls in this game. You can hear him moaning in the background because Addison is simply just blowing it up here. This is a huge score in a pressure situation. State championship on the line. And man, what a ball from Addison. Deserves some applause on that. Great, great ball. So now if you're Scott, he just says he has a lot of work to do, and that is extremely true.
Wow.
In good jest, he says, wow. And he should, but he gets a quick lock. It's a good start. Let's see if he's able to do it again. Missed that one, but it's really the only strategy he has at the moment. It would take too many crisscross ramps to catch Addison at 513. He's got to go for those jackpots. He's got to get the super at 100 million. He's got to do all the things that Addison just did and then some. See if he can quick lock another. Just missed it on the right side. So you can see how the difference in styles, even though he's still looking really uncomfortable, and that's going to be the end of the ball. So Addison is going to go up 3-1 against Scott Mount. Incredible, incredible play from Addison there on that game.
Your choice.
That was a state championship ball right there. And we're going to move on to the Shadow. Now this is another game that they have in their house. They keep this exact Shadow at their house. This is their game. They brought it down for this tournament and for the Pinball and Helm tournament, which was the week after the state tournament. So it looks like they're just going to be warming up here for a minute. There are a few different strategies you can play, but I believe the upper playfield in the upper left corner has been disabled. We were having some issues with it earlier in the day. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was at the next tournament. So the main strategies you can play are you can play for multi-ball, which is the Sanctum shot, just to the right of the upper playfield in the center top part of the playfield. You can play for my favorite strategy, which is the Vengeance strategy, which is essentially hitting each of the ramps 4 times. There are 2 flipper buttons. You can change the direction of the ramps. If you hit each ramp and then you change the direction and you hit it again, and then you hit all 4 ramps and complete all the lights, that will start vengeance scoring. And it's essentially the same thing. You want to continue to do that. You want to hit the ramps. It can be a really quick way to build up a lot of points if you're comfortable. A lot of people don't like that strategy because the left ramp is close to the flippers, and if you hit one of those targets, it's going to go right down the middle. So it looks like they're going to get started here on the Shadow. The other strategies are playing for multi-ball and then also playing for the battlefield, which is that upper playfield. I don't necessarily recommend that strategy because it takes a lot of shots to get, I believe it's 40 to get multi-ball out of there, and it's just not worth all that much. Other multi-balls in the game are Khan. You light that by spelling K-H-A-N on your in lanes and out lanes, which are movable. When you hit an in lane, you want to try to spell that, and then you start con multi-ball underneath the left ramp. There are 2 shots that go underneath that are available to the upper right flipper. That's the con shot underneath the left ramp, and then there's a loop shot similar to the warp ramp on Star Trek: The Next Generation. And he got a bad bounce there, and he's going to be out of ball 1 with just around 25 million, just under 23 million. So we'll see what strategies Scott goes with here. Looks like he took a shot at the ramp there. It was a good opportunity to do that because he's gonna go for vengeance, it looks like, which is my preferred strategy on this game. Because when you're going for vengeance, it'll give you an opportunity to use your in lanes for progress towards con multi-ball, and if you can hit your ramps, there's a huge opportunity to score points there as well. So he's taking a shot at the lock, at the sanctum. They call it the sanctum up there in the center of the playfield. And there's going to be lock 2. So he's going directly for multi-ball. Nice live catch there. Live catch is when you meet the flipper with the ball at the apex of the flipper's travel, and it deadens the momentum and stops the ball directly in its tracks. And he is going to get con multi-ball. He seemed like he sort of, I don't know if he shot it in there or if I just missed it, but he completed his lanes and then the ball went in under the flipper. I mean under the left ramp, so he's got con multi-ball going. Con multi-ball, you want to hit all the lit jackpots. And there's a super jackpot available. And we'll see, I'm not entirely sure on the rules there, but nice air defense there. That ball was going right down the middle. He used the other ball. Nice shakeout. That was really some skills right there that Scott's showing us. That was impressive. He used the ball to knock the other ball out of the way of the center drain. And then he shook that ball out of the out lane. So an unfortunate bounce right there, but that's okay. He got a pretty decent amount of points. It's up to 118 million, and you would feel pretty good. I would say in a head-to-head setting, probably about 500 million. But he put up over 1 billion points on this earlier in the day. As far as I'm aware, he and I had the highest scores on the game the whole day, which is pretty cool. So, if the ball lucks into the battlefield, you should play it like he's doing, but I don't think that's a viable strategy is to go for that exclusively, although some players will do it. So I think it requires 40 shots. So 50 million for defeating Khan there, so that was nice. So he's doing exactly what Addison just did in Fishtails. He's putting up a huge ball. He's making him chase him. He's doing the work early in the game so that Addison knows, hey, I've got to put up a huge ball too. So he has 1 shot to the left ramp to start vengeance scoring, and he's going to fumble it. But that was a really good start from Scott. Nice ball there for ball 1. You can see he put up over 10 times Addison's score on ball 1. So
that makes you feel good. That makes you feel comfortable, and we'll see what Addison's able to do. But he's got to be able to chip away at this lead because he is the first player this time. So he's got to be able to chip away. Or he'll find himself in a similar position that Scott was in the last game, where going into ball 3, you've got to put up a huge ball. And you can see he's just kind of uncomfortable with the shots. Sometimes you just don't gel with the game. Sometimes you have a game that you feel like you can't miss. So he defeats Con for $50 million. That's a really good start there. Side-to-side motion. It's the one thing you want to avoid. So there's the Con shot. He's going to get into Con multi-ball here. He's going to light all of his jackpots on major shots. Nice quick shot to the left ramp there. That's the one you want to go for when you have ball save, because it'll give you your insurance policy. And I don't think he'll get that back. I don't think there's some games when the ball save light goes off, it'll give you a 1 or 2 second grace period. But I don't think this one does that. When the ball save's off, it's off. That would have been an opportunity to try to... whoa, nice save. Nice save, taking the double danger. He knew that he needed it. He knows he's behind. That was a really good decision. Really good decision because he's still flipping away. He still has an opportunity to score points. A lot of players would have let that ball go right down the out lane and given up on it. But he knew better, so that was really good decision making from Addison there. Those are the kind of decisions that will win you state tournaments. So there's your loop shot. And there's another strategy if you just keep looping that, but it comes out of there so quickly that it's a difficult shot to be consistent with. He's going to go for multi-ball. The regular multi-ball. Sanctum multi-ball. So he needs 2 more shots, and it's going to go right down the middle. That was a good ball there from Madison, doing a good job of making the comeback. He's right in line with Scott now, so that was a really excellent ball, knowing that you're down and you have to put up a good score. So if Scott fumbles around here and is not able to really do much, Addison has an opportunity to come back on the 3rd ball and win this game and the state championship title because it's a best-of-4 match. See, I mean, he could drain out here a lot of side-to-side motion. Ball in the out lane. Good decision making. There you go. There you go. Slow the game down. Line up your shot. Take it. He's going to start multi-ball here. It looks like the one jackpot lid at the moment is the Sanctum shot, the lock shot, essentially. I don't really remember the rules for this, so we'll learn it as we watch him play. So he just made a jackpot around the left orbit there. Looks like he is making an attempt to trap up. So it's a good idea. It's just hard to do when you have 3 things going on at one time. He's down to 2 balls now. So he's going to line up a shot just like he just did. Nice shot. That should be worth 20, 25 million. Okay, I'm sorry. So the jackpot shot is the upper loop shot. So he's using the left. He's using the he's using that Sanctum shot to line up the upper loop shot to set himself up and feed the flipper for the upper jackpot shot. I remember that now. Sorry. So he's going to be out of multi-ball, but that was a nice multi-ball there. He got several jackpots, which can be a pretty difficult thing to do. Similar to like a Pat Lawler type funhouse jackpot where you use the upper flipper to claim your jackpots. So that was a really good second ball. He put the pressure on Addison, has the opportunity now. If Addison doesn't start his multi-ball, or if he has a poor multi-ball and drains, you know, he's still 200 million points behind, which isn't exactly chump change, and now he's on his 3rd ball. So that was a good job from Scott there, putting pressure on Addison to really perform here on the 3rd ball. So he's taking a minute to think about it. He's thinking, how am I going to get to 200 million points? And then, as a safety net, you would say you'd need an additional 200 million points. If Scott's been able to put up 500 million on the first 2 balls, so you could assume he could put up 750 million total after the 3rd ball. So that should be Addison's goal, and that's going to be the end of the game. So Scott with the comeback on the points. He's going to be down 3 games to 2, and we're going to move into the next game, which is Evel Knievel. Evel Knievel is one of the many Bally games you can see in the background there from the 70s and 80s that Mike has at his shop. This was an interesting choice from Addison. Addison chose the game because he lost, so this is an interesting decision from Addison to pick Evel Knievel. And I don't know if he chose it because he felt comfortable playing this earlier in the day or what the decision was, but typically these games they will even out the skills. Sometimes these games will give you a lot of cheap drains, and it sort of evens the playing field. And as well as Addison has been playing on the newer games, he's up 3-2. I might have chosen something differently, but you have to like what he did here. And if he felt comfortable in this game, he's sort of throwing Scott off of his game because they've been playing a lot of Bally Williams games, and that's sort of Scott's specialty. So the idea here is to really the easiest strategy on this game is to rip the side where the spinner is lit, and the spinner alternates based on random playfield action. So if you hit a switch, it'll flip from one side to the other. You also want to hit your skill shot up there in the center, which you see just missed. So now the spinner is lit on the left side, and that's going to be the end of the ball. That was the end of the ball for Scott. There are no ball saves on games from this era, so you have 3 balls and you get what you get, and that's all. So he's plunging this ball. We're using only the 3rd and 4th player scores so that we could get them on camera. So he's plunging. This will be the 2nd player. He's plunging. So this is going to be Addison's 2nd ball. And Addison has an opportunity here to win the state championship on this game. All he needs is 1 more win, and he's going to take home the trophy at 14 years old, which is huge. It's really cool if he's able to pull that off. He'd be the youngest state champion in state history, in Alabama state history. So a lot of bad action there. He never really even had an opportunity to get a spinner shot in. Never even touched the ball. In the pinball world, we call that a house ball. So similar to gambling, where the house takes your money, the house takes your ball on that one. So let's see if Scott's able to capitalize on those 2 poor balls, and he's not. He's not. I don't think he even got a flipper. I think he got a house ball. That's 2 house balls in a row for Scott. Never even had an opportunity to touch the ball with the flipper. And that's what you see with these games. That's why it evens the playing field, is because you've got to have a different skill set on these games than you would a modern Stern game. You can take some of those skills with you when you transfer from playing different eras of games, but there are entirely different skills that you have to have. For example, a tap pass. A tap pass is when you barely move the flipper and you're able to pop it from one flipper to the other. That comes in huge handy on this game, because if you have the spinner lit on the right side, but the ball is also on the right flipper, you can tap pass to the left, cradle the ball, and then take a controlled shot. So he just got a huge spinner rip on the right side with the spinner lit for 1,000 points. So this is his situation where a tap pass would be great to have in his arsenal, and we'll see how he chooses to transfer the ball. He just chose to throw it back up on the spinner and hope for an opportunity on the right flipper in a moment. So he's going to get an opportunity. Nice, another on-the-fly spinner shot. This is a great shot. So you could see really quickly he went from 10 or 15 million with those 2 shots. Now he's up to almost 80,000. Excuse me, 80,000. That's trouble. That's trouble. Yeah. So that's going to be the end of the ball, but he's got decent bonus. He should be somewhere near in the neighborhood of 100,000 with that ball. 96,000. So as we've seen with the first 2 balls, it can end really quickly on this game. And we'll see if Scott is able to get a
a little bit of luck and utilize the skills that he has here to see if he can take. But right now, Addison is in the lead to take the state championship. So he had a spinner shot there, but the spinner was not lit, so it was only for 10 or 100 points. And there's a great spinner shot on the right side. Missed a shot there. That would have been really a lucrative shot on the spinner with it coming down. You get a lot more speed, and that's going to be the end of the game. And Addison Mount. Addison Mount is going to take the Alabama State Championship at 14 years old, and he deserved it. He played great all day. He really deserves it. He did a great job, and congratulations to both those guys. The trophy, I'm sure, is somewhere high in the Mount household, so congratulations. I did have a picture here of Addison holding the trophy, but for some reason it didn't make it in the video, so congratulations, Addison, and thank you guys so much for watching. And we'll have coverage for you hopefully next week for the Pinball and Pelham tournament.